Spit bars, I stand behind mine. Yeah. Sentences I serve, maximize guidelines. My lawyer can't give me his advice when he's beasts that I murder carry mandatory minimums of life. Yikes. In case you didn't get the point, we spit bars.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of The Maximum Sentence, where there's conviction behind the bars. I'm your man AJ Throwback. Great to be here with you on another awesome Wednesday, where we are wrapping up our breakdown of Loner's Remorse, my latest single, produced by Gladiator, co-produced by yours truly. But before we go any further, if this is your first time checking out any of my content, please make sure that you like, comment, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Hit the bell notification so that whenever I go live, premiere a new video, or post a new video, you'll be among the first to know. Now, we got that out of the way. Of course, we have to make sure that we show love to those who show love to the Maximum Sentence. So let's get started with some of these comments. Shout out to my brother Marchello Bradley of What's Up With You, who responded to episode 8 of the Maximum Sentence, where he says, "Rest easy, B.I.G." Then he says, "The detail with which you recount the stories from your childhood is amazing. I can see the karate kick in my mind. Them little Bammers must have been watching Three Ninjas." It's sad that kids have to create false personas to survive life. It's interesting because you see how some people never shed the persona. They become so entrenched in it and forget that it's not real. I salute you for being self-aware enough to recognize that aspect of yourself. Your memory of childhood is great. I'm sitting thinking, sheesh man, 3rd and 4th grade are all a blur to me. What vitamins are you taking to retain your memory so well? It's dope how we take traumatic experiences and transmute them into positivity. I think that's what a lot of life is about, using what you have in the darkness to bring forth the light. Another great breakdown, my man. Keep them coming. And I absolutely love the fact that my man used transmute in a sentence. You know what I mean? Like, how many people say transmute? So I absolutely love that, my brother. And the entire comment, just a quality comment as always. Thank you, my brother, as always, for your support. The next comment comes from my sis, Ansley Jukeboxx Joy, who says, "What an amazing breakdown. I must thank you again for your vulnerability with us. So powerful." It's absolutely paramount with this series specifically to be vulnerable when it comes to my lyrics, because my lyrics are very personal to me a lot of times. Sometimes it's not always about the personal, but more often than not, and even with the songs that aren't overtly personal, it's always personal for me because I wrote it. So thank you so much. I appreciate you. And then the last comment comes from my man Mike Mountain. He says, "This is good stuff. I feel fortunate to call you my friend. You should send this video to your brother for real, for real." And I'll be honest, I still have to do that. I still have not done that, but you know, I definitely need to send that video to him. So I'm gonna take you up on your advice, bro. So appreciate you. Appreciate everybody for your comments, for your views, for every bit of support. It all matters. So today we're gonna do it a little bit differently. Normally I put a blurb of the lyric video, but I'm not gonna do that today because most of the parts that I'm gonna pull out, I originally wanted somebody to point out a particular part of the song that they felt like they wanted me to break down, but because I didn't get any response for it, and no slight or no shade or anything, but I decided to take small parts of the 3rd verse, which is a 24 bar verse, but I wanted to take like 2 to 4 bars a piece at a time. So to try to do that in the lyric video, I feel like would be a bit much. So where we're gonna start, we're gonna start in the first third of the last verse of Loner's Remorse. And so it's the part where I say, "But as the soundscape matured, so did people. Problem was, got hard trusting folks were not exposed to evil." So that part is very important compared to everything that I've been talking about in these last 4 episodes. Specifically the whole thing with the relationship with other kids. As I got older, I got so used to kind of sort of being in this protective shell to keep myself from being hurt, to keep myself from being teased, to keep myself from just the harshness of the world. It was hard for me to be, I'm not gonna say kind. It was easy for me to be kind, but it was hard for me to be open. Sometimes one of the hardest things for me to do is express my feelings. I know it's kind of hard to believe because I have this whole series where I feel like I'm just unloading my feelings. You know what I mean? But at the same time, when it comes down to when I'm on the one-on-one with people sometimes, I've dealt with this difficulty in relationships, like romantic relationships. I've dealt with this difficulty in friendships. I've dealt with this difficulty when it comes to my familial relationships. It was hard for me to say a lot of things, if I'm being real, to people like my dad. It was hard for me to say certain things that were on my mind. But then other times it wasn't hard for me to say it. But the bigger point being, once people started being kinder to me, and once people stopped teasing me, once I got older, I was still thinking in the mindset of 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13-year-old Joe, instead of 14 and beyond, where the teasing stopped. I stopped really getting teased after, from 9th grade on. I mean, like little jokes here and there, but for the most part, as vicious as it could be, that all stopped once I turned 14. But it was hard for me to make that adjustment because I was so used to being in this world that I created, whether you're talking the world of drawing, whether you're talking music, whether you're talking media, radio, whatever it might be. I would consistently create these worlds where I was in these worlds by myself. And a lot of times it was hard for me to let people in. And it affected my ability to let people in as I got older. I couldn't, a lot of times mentally or psychologically, I could not distinguish the difference between somebody who was in my corner and somebody who wasn't. A part of me just had this whole self-preservation thing where I'm not going to say everybody was my enemy, but I am going to say that in my mind, it was hard for me to let everybody over that wall that I built around myself, that fortress that I built around myself. The irony is, like, I always wanted to build the tallest buildings possible, but in building the tallest buildings possible, it creates a taller obstruction. And that's how it was when it came to me and my relationship with people. I ended up becoming more introverted than I really wanted to be. So that's that part of it. Then we get to the part where I say, all the hit me ups and keep in touches turn to families as we watched 100 months leave our clutches, disgusted. Because I would get so busy, and I am going to use the word busy. I typically don't like to use the word busy because you can be busy, but not necessarily productive. And I was productive in my creativity, but not productive in my relationships with people. Here's a perfect way to look at it. Families always say, I know in my family, both sides of my family, I know a lot of people that can probably relate to this. But you get to a point where it's like, yeah, we gonna keep in touch, yada, yada, yada. Then a funeral happens. Yeah, we gonna keep in touch, yada, yada, yada. Wait until a family reunion. Yeah, we gonna keep in touch, yada, yada, yada. Another funeral happens. It's this never-ending cycle of constantly saying, yeah, we gonna keep in touch. Yeah, we gonna do a better job of staying tapped in with one another, staying connected with one another. And next thing you know, a year passes, 2 years pass, 10 years pass. There are certain people that I see them and I don't realize how long it had been since I seen them. Like family members, friends, schoolmates, whatever it might be. It could literally be 20 years. There have been people in my life I hadn't seen in 20 years and I seen them, and it's either one or two things. It's the awkwardness of you haven't seen this person in 20 years and you don't know how to really interact with them after 20 years of not seeing them. Or no time has passed at all, which is frankly a rarity, depending on your relationship with that person or how close of a bond you had or still have with that person. Because sometimes you don't necessarily need to see people all the time. But at the same time, if there's not that constant or frequent enough sewing into one another, it's hard to get a rhythm going with somebody. And so the importance of the line of all the hit me ups and keep in touches turn to families as we watched 100 months leave our clutches. Think about that, 100 months, that's about 8 years. There are people in my life that at one point of life, they didn't have any kids. They could hang out, they could do all of these things. They weren't married. They could hang out, they could do all of these things. We were all free and we didn't have all of these responsibilities that we had to keep up with. Then life happens. and you say to somebody, yeah, I'm gonna keep in touch with you. Next thing you know, they have one kid. I'm gonna keep in touch with you. Next thing you know, they have another kid. You blink, those kids are teenagers. You know, like, who can't relate to that? Time flies so fast. Like, sometimes some people say life is short, some people say life is long. But either way, you blink and people's kids are grown. You blink and people have been married for 10, 15 years to the same person, and you might not have even ever met their wife or their husband. You haven't really been as involved in their life as maybe you intended to be, as maybe you wanted to be, because you got whatever you got going on. And I am one of those type of people. I am not great at calling people. I'm just gonna be honest. I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to get to the point where if I think about somebody and calling them, I'll call them right on the spot. You know, kind of like what I did the other day with my brother, or a couple of days ago with my brother. You know, I had him on my mind. I was talking to my mother, and I said, you know what? Let me call my brother. You know, it's been a minute. Let me not let time go by and not talk to him. And, you know, I've tried to do this thing where it's like, okay, I want to try to talk to him, if not every week, every other week, because I know how busy he is. I'm pretty busy myself, but it's the whole thing of making time for people, stepping outside of yourself, stepping outside of whatever shell, whatever rut, whatever groove, whatever it might be, stepping outside of yourself and opening yourself to others, because you don't want to get to a certain situation where you feel like you're either disconnected from people or you don't have the time to connect with that person because something happens to them. I have friends, family, so many people in my life who 1 minute I can call them, they could send me a letter or a card in the mail, or I could hit them up on email or DM or whatever it might be. Next thing you know, something happens to them and you see a post on Facebook talking about they passed away. And then you don't have the opportunity to make up that relationship. You don't have the time to feed any more positive energy into that relationship because it's gone physically. That person's gone from the physical realm. That is one of the worst feelings that you could possibly ever have. And I've had that one too many times because I wasn't consistent enough in reaching out to people. That's why I started off the song saying what I said. If you're listening to this right now and I didn't reach out consistently enough, please accept this as my apology. It is very important for me to start off the song being accountable for my shortcomings as an introvert, because it's very easy for me to go within myself, go into my corner and do whatever it is I go into my corner and do, and cut myself off from the world. People will email me a lot of times. People will message me a lot of times. I've gotten to the point where as when I'm working, I cut everything. All the alerts, all the notifications, I cut it, because if I don't, then I'll get distracted. Or if I'm really knee deep in an idea when it comes to music, I turn off my notifications, because if I don't, I will get distracted. And then next thing you know, an hour goes by, and that's an hour that I could have been working on music. And as much, it's really a balance. As much as I want to talk to people, I also realize that it's like I have to do whatever it is that I'm doing over here in order to live out my dreams. But the balance comes in, as much as I want to do things that live out my dreams, I also have to maintain relationships over here. Because when it comes down to it, you could build all of this stuff over here, but if you're not building the relationships with people, then what does it mean? What does it matter? That kind of takes me to the lines of, maybe that's why I was voted boy who's out of tune. Had my head up in the clouds, but life is not balloons. Though I thrive from this energy within, God responded to my pleas, swapped my frenemies with kin. The first part of those 4 bars, that comes from something, and when it first got said to me, it hurt. It really hurt, because it was more, these were people that I barely even knew, and it was like, here we go again. More kids who don't like me. So I was in this summer program at UDC called Camps, and it was a computer and math science program. I forget what the acronym fully stood for, but anyway, cool program. being somebody who was really into computers and math and science and all of these things, I got involved in this program, and once again, it was hard for me to make friends, per the usual. And so they put out this book. I forget who even organized this book, but they put out this book of superlatives. And in this book, they had most out of touch with reality. So they had a boy and they had a girl. So the girl, ironically, became my girlfriend. And the boy was me. I was the most out of touch with reality. And the reason I put that in the song was because maybe I was out of touch because I was living in my own bubble. I was in my own world. My own world was this fantasy world. My own world was this world where I was invincible. My own world was this world where I was everybody's friend. Everybody wanted to be my friend. I was the most popular person in the entire world. Nobody could tell me anything. If anybody tried to come against me, you know, they get it. They get handled. You know what I mean? That's not reality. I tried to make it reality. But the reality is, everybody ain't my friend. The reality is, I wasn't the best looking. The reality is, I wasn't the best dressed. The reality is, I wasn't the most popular. That's the reality. But that's not what I was living in. That became kind of the trajectory of my life in a lot of ways. I'm not saying all the way, because as I got older, I realized you have to live in reality. You have to deal in what's real. But there are a lot of times where I try to escape. Whatever it might be that I might escape. It could be relationships. It could be a job I didn't like. It could be bills. It could be my weight. It could be my self-image connected to my weight. It could be all of these different things that I was trying to escape. And I would use whatever I could find at the time to escape. And then I draw even further into myself. And I'd be even harder to reach. I'd be even harder to connect with because I'm so withdrawn from everything and everybody. That's why I said in the second verse, at the end of the second verse, all my withdrawals didn't add up to a lot of sense. How much sense does it make to keep pulling yourself away from people who actually care about you? That's why the next set of lines is important when I said, though I thrive from this energy within, God responded to my pleas, swap my frenemies with kin. Swap my frenemies with kin is probably the most important part of those two bars. Because for a long time, and this is a conversation, I'm gonna share this with y'all. So I had a conversation with my son last week because some kids said some unkind things to him. So one kid told him that he needed a break from him. We needed a break from my son. Then another group of girls when he was in gym class. So the class was broken down in 4 mats. There's about 15, 16 kids in their class. There were already 4 girls on the mat. So when Jason came by and he wanted to be on the mat like he was with the same, more or less the same group of girls that he was on the mat with the last time, they told him no. And so when I picked him up from school, he was really emotional, really just upset. Like, I mean, visibly crying, everything. Like, my son doesn't come home from school crying. You know, like come in the car crying. Usually he's Mr. Happy-go-lucky, he's smiling. He's taking forever to get to the car because he's just, you know, just his head in the clouds, you know. But he came to the car this day and he was visibly upset. So I talked to him for probably about 45 minutes. And at the end of that 45 minutes, the crux of what I told him was that there's a difference between people who tolerate you and people who truly want you around. The people who tolerate you, they allow you to be in their space, but they would much rather have somebody else in that space the first chance they get to replace you, versus somebody who wants you around, who likes you, who loves you. They're basically throwing you confetti parties, welcoming you into their circle, welcoming you into their life. And this is the thing that I prayed for so much when I was younger. And to a certain degree, I didn't appreciate it enough. To be honest, I haven't consistently appreciated enough even to this day. You got to know where your loyalties lie. You gotta go to bat for the people that's going to bat for you. One of the other things I told my son in that conversation is you have to find your tribe, because your tribe is always going to want you there. And that's the thing that I've had to realize in my life, that my tribe, my true tribe, wants me there. There's no ulterior motive. There's no, we just want you here just to fill up the space because we got 5 slots and we just trying to fill the slot. No, they want you there because you belong, because you're like-minded, or you're just cut from a similar cloth. So it gets to a point where if you're an introvert and you've struggled with wanting to interact with people, you have to be as open as the people that are opening themselves to you. You have to break down those walls. You have to step out of your imaginary world that you created for yourself, this bubble that you created for yourself to protect yourself, because you don't need to protect yourself against people who are going to protect you. You don't have to protect yourself against people who have your best interests at heart, who would literally, if they could, run through a brick wall for you. That's the lesson that I've had to learn as an introvert, is it's okay to have time to yourself. It's okay to have your own thing that's special, that you do, that means so much to you, that's at the heart of who you are. But that can't be your entire identity. A huge amount of your identity, especially if you are a person that's of a high context culture, a huge amount of your identity are the people who are attached to your narrative, who would do anything for you, for your family, your other friends, anyone who is near and dear to your story, to your narrative, to your life. You have to break down those walls. You have to step outside of yourself and let other people in. That is something that I've had to learn, and that is something I continue to learn at 42 years old. If you are somebody who struggles with peopling, and I'm not saying you gotta be everybody's friend, because everybody's not going to be your friend. That's been part of the lesson of this whole part of the series, is that not everybody is your friend. Not everybody is meant to be in your tribe. But those who are, you gotta always welcome them as much as they welcome you. You got to. Because if you don't have anybody, then you are an island unto yourself. And some people are comfortable with that being their resort, but God didn't make us to be that way. God didn't make us to be islands unto ourselves. We are a part of a larger body. Whether you believe in, God, Christ, whatever, we are still a part of a larger body of the human race. And it's not meant for us to be on our own. And that's all I got. Now that we got the song wrapped up and everything, it's broken down or whatever, let's get to some business. And all of this business is going to be in one central location. So, if you don't have my single, Loner's Remorse, produced by Gladiator, co-produced by yours truly, there's a place that you can go get it. With that same place, you can go get my EP that is coming out next Thursday, March 31st. You can go to my website and get that. And also, as you can see, my brother's kind of fresh today, or feeling a little fresh today. This hat, this shirt, part of my new merch line called Batch, which is short for Balancing Act Trinkets and Clothing House. So this is my merch line that's connected not only to my music, but also to other parts of my movement, other parts of who I am that I feel like a lot of people will be able to relate to. There'll be different pieces coming out in different collections you'll be seeing very soon, but these are both prototype versions of what I've created, and I'm so proud to be able to present this to you all. The online store for Batch opens tomorrow, March 24th, Thursday, March 24th. The online store opens at midnight. So all of this, Loner's Remorse the single, Late Bloomer the EP, and my clothing line, Batch, all of this is available at my website, BAMMLLC.net. Once again, that is BAMMLLC.net. With the music, you can connect with the website directly. You can go to your favorite streaming platform except Spotify, because I pulled all my music from there. In fact, I had one of my homies hit me up last week like, yo, you pulled all your music from Spotify? Because he was trying to play some music for his kids in his class. Shout out my man Jay Rivera. You know, my bad once again, brother. But, you know, I explained the situation to him, and anybody who knows me knows how black I can be. You know exactly why I pulled my music from Spotify. But anyway, not to get on a tangent, but I'm on all the other digital streaming platforms. But if you're a Bandcamp person, you can connect to Bandcamp from there. But if you want to go directly to my Bandcamp page, ajthrowback.bandcamp.com. Once again, ajthrowback.bandcamp.com. Now, the special thing about Bandcamp versus even my website, if you want to get 4 bonus tracks. These are tracks that were either unmixed, unmastered, or I decided not to release it for whatever reason. You get 4 bonus tracks if you buy this EP from my Bandcamp page. So if you want more, come to my Bandcamp page. If you want less, go to all the other joints. You know what I'm saying? You might not want to deal with all of that of me in one fell swoop. You might want to ease your way into dealing with me, you know what I mean, as an artist. And that's cool. That's fine. You know what I'm saying? As long as you support, as long as you buy it, and if you stream, whether it's the single, whether it's the EP, if you do stream, please make sure that you play the single, the EP in their entirety and add it to a playlist. That's simple. Helps out a whole lot, more than y'all really understand. And if this is your first time, once again, tapping in with any of my content, please make sure that you like, comment, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Make sure you hit those bell notifications so that when I go live, premiere a new video, post a new video, you'll be among the first to know. Because you don't want to miss out. You don't want to be a late bloomer like me. But anyway, and if you're not already following me on social media, please make sure that you do so. I am on Facebook and Twitter at AJ Throwback, and on Instagram. If you are an Instagram, TikTok person, I'm on those platforms as well. A.J.Throwback. And please also make sure that you follow my clothing brand on Instagram. Right now, we just on Instagram, but we're going to get to the other platforms. On Instagram, it is Batch, BATCH.202. Once again, that's Batch.202. So, until the next time, right here on the Maximum Sentence, we're going to dig into one of the songs that's going to be on the EP, and also the kind of sort of the third single to the EP. We're going to break that one down first, and then in the following weeks, we're going to break down 3 of the other songs from the project. Thank you once again to everybody for tuning in for these past 5 weeks, and I will see you in 2 weeks because we're off next week. That's how we do. We do 5 weeks, break, 5 weeks, break, so on and so forth. But anyway, I have been your host, AJ Throwback. This has been the Maximum Sentence, where there's conviction behind the bars, and I'm going to see y'all in 2 weeks. Y'all take it easy. Enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy your weekend. And yeah, make sure that y'all pre-order that album and buy it when it comes out, March 31st. So, I'll see y'all later. Peace.
I done told myself some most comfortable results. Was homeless as a loner, now I'm living with remorse. Yeah, I was homeless as a loner, now I'm living with remorse.